right?
a male or a female. Well, they should just understand.
Yeah, but it's no understanding without the communication piece
Mm-hmm.
first. You have to communicate first to even come to an understanding. And don't leave with it still being a gray area, right? Do we have an understanding? Are we completely clear?
And you're so great with that. I appreciate that.
Are we
Because he will
completely
ask me
clear, right?
40,
Are we
50 million
okay?
times.
All right, good day and belief all is well. It is Aondrea and Sam.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody, the duo has returned. We're here to give you information that we've lived out thus far. And our topic today is going to be marriage is tough, isn't it? Is marriage tough? Relationships are tough, right? Would you all agree or disagree? I think it's unanimous. You know, everybody would agree. What makes it tough, though? Right? That's what we want to get down to. What makes it tough? And then we want to provide a solution as to how we got through those tough times and we're still standing. We are a testimony of what it, takes. And Lord knows that we have years to live out, right? As a married couple, but we're almost 15 years in and we have endured some tough times. We have endured some times that we wanted to throw in the towel. But I won't even say it's because just God's soul. It's something in this woman, right, that kept her, wanting and desiring to be married. And so I want to turn it over to her because, again, my wife, the way she thinks is not the way I think. And so this is going to be, raw. It's going to be just completely transparent, right, with you all so you all can understand it from a woman's point and a man's point, right? And so I'll start off with her. Let's ask the question again so we can make sure we're on topic. Why is marriage tough? Why are relationships tough?
Well, I believe it's for many different reasons why people see it as tough, why they see it as a hard thing to do, as to why they don't want to be in what you call a committed relationship. However, we don't realize many times that even with our faithful few that we may have in our corner, those of us who don't have a lot of friends or prefer big circles, how we even make those relationships work, even though we think relationships are hard. And I believe it's because the biggest thing is that if you can find, male or female, if you can find the ounce of you that feels like the relationship is important enough to work on, to keep at, that it's worth having, even with its ups and downs that you experience, there's some part of you that's like, I would rather go through all these emotions, through all these obstacles with this person than to be without them, to not have them in my life. Now, give or take, there are some situations that are just more strenuous than others. Some of us get in relationships before we really get to know the person, and you kind of feel like you don't. I've heard people tell me they don't have the strength to leave. They're not strong enough to do it on their own, which is another thing people either get in relationships for or get out of. Has to do a lot with finances. Some of it has to do with belief, and then you got those few who feel like, I can get with this person, if I can do this, I can do that, I can just change them a little bit, and that is a mistake. You have to love people for who they are and where they are. And as you're getting to know them, that'll kind of let you know. When you're not in a married relationship, marriage today looks like someone's faith almost. if
Elaborate.
I can put it that way, it almost
Yeah.
look like someone's faith almost. It can look like a lot of things, and that's what I mean by that statement. It can look like a lot of things. It doesn't matter. How can I put this? And I'm not trying to put it in nicer because we're going to be transparent.
Okay.
I know for us, we talk about this a lot. Our belief is we are kingdom citizens. We are followers of Christ. We believe in God. And for us, how marriage is supposed to look, as far as it being God ordained, it's not going to look the same as it would for an atheist. However, one thing that we get into a discussion about is, while an atheist does not proclaim to be saved or believe in God, how is it that some of them have better relationships than those of us who are living by godly principles?
Correct. Especially if God was per se the founder of marriage, right? So that's my biggest thing. How can an atheist, right, treat their spouse or treat their loved ones better than someone that does profess to be a believer, right? How is that possible?
Did we come up with an answer?
It's a couple of ways, right? How is it possible? I mean, sometimes it's based on perspective, right? How do you view a healthy relationship? How do you view a wholesome relationship? What I'm coming to learn is when it comes to relationships, the way that God intended for relationships to be is that it's all about pulling out that potential. People don't get married based off of what they really know about the person. In a sense of you can know or you can know about something that person possesses, but until you peel back those layers, through spending quality time with that individual, through going through some tough circumstances that may pull out a different side of that individual, right? You won't know, right? So you're actually marrying off of potential. You're actually, at the altar or wherever you may have gotten married, you're at that point because you said, I see potential in this situation. And so as a man, right, my job is to pull out that potential that I once saw, but how do I actually do that? Right? How do I actually pull out that potential in my spouse or out of my spouse, right? Without being a dictator, without having a vision, but that vision is distorted because I'm going about it the wrong way. Does that make sense? Because it causes division when we're not on the same page. You know?
Right.
So go ahead. What are your thoughts on it?
You said a mouthful, first of all.
Okay.
And that is important to, as having a male perspective. More males need to hear it from a man's perspective, as well as women hearing it from a male's perspective, because I love that now in our now relationship, you're able to lead me as a wife and lead this family. As a husband and a father, without feeling like, aside from being a leader, you're trying to push all of us to that point of everything is not about you, but correct. How can I pull out the greatness in my family as a whole?
Absolutely.
And it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference in our marriage. It makes a difference in our children, especially if you have children, for them to see that. They learn by, seeing and doing. So what we present to them, and there are a few cases where children may be in the home and they still may see things like that and go a different way. But like I said, for us, it's based off of biblical principles. For us, we just still believe that you raise the child in the way they should go in the admonition of the Lord. They won't depart from those ways as they get older, But what about the general family? Can we still speak to that? I think we lack that a lot in our communities, that if we're not talking about the word or the Bible, that we don't have anything to offer people. But the Lord said to lead with love and truth. Correct?
Love and truth. Absolutely.
And so when you're doing it in the appropriate manner, there's much that you can offer people, that in what the word says, be patient with them that they may turn their hearts towards me.
Correct.
So if we focus more on the love part, it does not mean accepting everything. God loves us, but it doesn't mean he does not get disappointed, and it doesn't mean that he accepts everything that we do.
Right.
But he loves us.
Correct.
He loves us too much to leave us how we are and where we are, that we can't experience or see change within ourselves or our spouses or our families.
Yes.
You know, if that makes sense.
Right.
But we focus too much as a people and as a church, and I don't mean building. We're the church.
Ecclesia.
And so when we, as the church body, when we get that thing right and we love people, not being all accepting, but loving people the right way, they're going to want more of what we have, because they're going to see more of God than they see us as the physical man.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
And so as that applies to marriages, our topic is, why is it hard? It's hard because, one, you have people who don't love themselves. You don't love yourself. You're not able, at least even if you love the other person properly, you're giving something they might not get back. They're not going to know how to love you properly because you don't know how to properly love yourself.
Wow.
You have to be forgiving. You have to be patient with yourself just as much as you do the other person. Another thing is, you know, the confidence that if somebody is worth your time and your effort, and you've made them important enough to be in your life, and that's somewhere that you kind of want to stick and stay with, then it's worth exploring and studying and learning the person, but not just while things are good. It's when it's not going so great that you're taking the time to really pay attention to their words and their behaviors.
Correct.
And how's this person responding to me? Why are they responding to me that way? Let's have a conversation about it. It seems like such a cliche thing, but it's always going to remain true that communication is always going to be the best part. Yes. So for us, and I'll hand it back over to Samuel in a minute, but for us, we learned just more in recent years that communicating properly, like communicating effectively the right way to understand the person and not just have a response to what they say, think, or feel has been a game changer for us.
Yes, and that comes with, man, that's powerful what you just said. That really comes with just maturity, right?
Yeah.
It absolutely has everything to do with maturing, right? And trying your best to not operate in self. And what I mean by that is that, you know, like for instance, Aondrea and myself, I used to be reactive a lot of times, reactive to something that I had mentally going on, but it wasn't necessarily truth, right? It wasn't accurate. In instance, you know, I used to work long hours, right? I would come home with the expectation that I want, you know, the home clean from top to bottom per se, right? Most men, they find themselves asking for respect. And this was, you know, my point.
Your respect.
That was my respect line. You know what I mean? Like if I'm bringing the bacon home and if I'm bringing the bread, the butter, etc., then I expect for the home to be clean top to bottom, right? And that was my immaturity speaking, right? That was my immature mindset when I thought, you know, my wife, according to society, right? Man, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole because we'll chase it. We'll chase it and we'll be in this thing for 2 hours. But so you got to understand that when it comes to the communication portion, that's what we're speaking to, right? Mm-hmm. One miscommunication is that you have internal, like mind expectations. You have that conjured up in your mind as far as men are concerned. Some women too, but I know for me, I'm speaking to men, right? We have it conjured up in our minds how we want something to be, right? And so we leave it up to chance. I would say chance. That's the best word that probably suits this. We leave it up to chance for the woman to figure out what our expectations are, right? Without spelling them out completely. And that leaves room, I would say, for error to become a part of the equation of the day. All right. So an example, if I'm coming home, in my mind, I'm thinking, now, if I were her, if I was home, right? Let me paint the picture clear. If I was home, the children are at school, she's
depending
pretty
on
much
where you are with things, how old the children are.
Correct. Exactly. So, children are at school, right? The way I thought was, it's 8 hours or 16 hours or whatever the case may be, right? After the shift. If it were me, then my house would be clean top to bottom. Food would be on the table at this particular time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So that's my expectation. When that doesn't happen, disappointment comes in because I already have it conjured up in my mind how it was supposed to go, right? But it wasn't any communication involved, right? And that's something that we have to learn over time. And as we get to know or become to know one another better and better, then that expectations becomes a reality on a repetitious basis per se. You know how somebody may say, I know what they want. I know what they need, right? It becomes one of those ordeals when you become to know that person for their expectations. But without me clearly spelling it out, like, hey, babe, let's have a conversation this morning, right? So listen, when I come home, I'd like for X, Y, and Z to be done. Do you see that as an issue? Do you have anything going on that may interfere with that? Do we have an understanding? Vice versa, she can communicate the same way to me when my expectations is it's going to be date night tonight. You know what I mean? Do we have an understanding, right? And so you have to have the understanding. And then once you move past the understanding, then it becomes knowledge, because I have knowledge of the information that, she wanted to get to me. Vice versa, she has knowledge of the information that I wanted to get to her. And once we
just date night,
right,
it's feeling a little one-sided.
Okay. So, and then once we actually acted upon that information, then it becomes wisdom. Now I'm operating in wisdom, and that leaves room for her now in myself to have that respect, because now both of us are having information going back and forth. We're having that conversation. I'm releasing information to her. She's releasing information to me. Right? And then we're going through the steps, right? We're going through the steps. We're going through the steps. Hold your horses.
Your 8 hours go by different than my 8 hours.
Hold your horses. So, and she can speak to that, right? She's going to speak on that. And so, man, you made me lose my spot.
Holy Spirit will bring it back. It's all good.
See that interrupting spirit,
Holy Spirit to bring it back to his
bring it back. But I think where I was at was we're exchanging the information, we're going through the process, trying to get to wisdom. That's the ultimate goal, right? To learn and to act upon what we've learned, right? So nowadays that conversation is a lot different, because I'm not leaving room for a gray area. She's not leaving room for a gray area. It's not like we have to put guesswork into it, That's what a lot of people do. They allow guesswork to be involved. And when it's guesswork, it's like, wow. It leaves room for attitudes to come forth. It leaves room for, what do you call it? When somebody is thinking one thing, but it's really not that. These ballistic ideations, man. I don't know what you call it, but it's like and that's a snare of the enemy, right? Because what the enemy, he uses devices, right? And his devices is to utilize thoughts, influence that comes in, and his number one move is to make you think that they're your thoughts, to make you feel as though you came up with that all by yourself, right?
Or that the other person is your enemy when they're really not.
Right. Or try to make your spouse seems as if they're your enemy, but really they're not.
Right.
They're not at all. But these thoughts are coming into your mind, and you're acting upon those thoughts because you're like, man, she's trying to ruin me, or he's trying to ruin me, or they don't respect me because I would have done it this way. Common sense should have told you, right?
Especially the common sense. That common sense,
it doesn't work.
It's almost like it's equal with the whole guesswork and mind reading thing. It's on the same level. Yeah. So
because she's a woman, so men, we expect for a woman to think like us, and women sometimes they expect for a man to think like them,
or just understand, and that's
right?
A male or a female. Well, they should just understand.
Yeah, but it's no understanding without the communication piece first. You have to communicate first to even come to an understanding, and don't leave with it still being a gray area, right? Do we have an understanding? Are we completely clear?
You're so great with that. I appreciate that.
Are we completely clear, right? Are we okay? Right?
Understand we really
do we have any eternal feelings to deal with right now? Right? Any emotions that we may not want to tap into, we need to deal with them right now, right?
Oh, while you're on that, don't forget what you got to say.
Okay.
So this, for me, this is very, very important. I don't care if it's the man or the woman. You have to be okay with letting that person. Sometimes it may take them a second or take them a minute to get those thoughts together. There's something else that we have to work through is, they don't want to answer me right now. Yeah. Why you can't answer me right now? Don't try to go talk to somebody else. You have to be okay with letting that person, if they're not calm, let them calm down, so that they can have clear thoughts and be okay with them trying to get it right. You don't want the person, because once you say something, you can't take that thing back, whether you meant it or not. It was said, and that person is left with, that it came out. You thought it. That must be how you feel. Am I right?
You're right. Right. And it's because it's reactive most of the time. We're not responding responsibly. Right. Responding means to you're actually coming back to something in a responsible manner. Right. And so, men, that's what we have to really own up to. We have to start responding responsibly. We have to be responsible for how we address the situations, right? And so, again, we want to make sure we're coming from a biblical perspective, right? Principles, right? And so, when it comes to that, the communication side of things, etc., we want to make sure that it's effective communication as well. All right, effective. What does effective communication look like? Effective means you're actually, you're processing, and we have the same concept once we leave that space, right? Once we actually depart from that conversation piece, we have to understand that we must have the same concept. If we have different concepts, we once again are back at square one. You understand?
Concepts, when I hear that, having many concepts is not just with that man and woman that's involved. It also means the other voices that you may be getting information, ideas, and concepts from. Because for those of you, and that's your belief, because that's how we approach things.
And never allow concepts to come from an influence that doesn't have what you want or better. Now, what does that mean? I'm not talking about in the sense of pleasing your flesh, right? No, you better stay away from that. What I'm speaking to is if you want a wholesome marriage, right? You want a wholesome household. You need to look somewhere where that's actually being fulfilled. And what do I mean by fulfilled? Peel the layers back on that situation. Don't take it just for a Kodak moment. Meaning that it's a picture moment. It looks good,
But
but
people
once
aren't
you peel it back,
practicing what they preach.
Right, they're not practicing what they preach, right? So when you peel the layers back, it's all kind of hell being raised up in that household. You're like, whoa, I didn't expect this from you all, right? Because it looks good. So you want to peel back the layers. You want to check the source, right? Just like you check anything else. We're so adamant about checking the sources when it comes from, things that really can't build us up or help us out. Check the source when you really want to build your relationship and marriage up. When you have an outside influence or you have an outside voice that you're allowing into your space, right?
Right, because everybody doesn't. It's not that everybody has bad advice. There are people who have good advice, but I don't think either one of us have been ever. It doesn't make sense to me, and it's me. I'm entitled to my own opinion, so do not come for me. It's my opinion. It's not going to change your life one way or the next. I'm just saying.
Right.
For me, for us, my household, my marriage, my spouse, we're not really, it's not a thing where let me just say it, because like I said, we're not going to hold back the punches.
Say it, get it out.
You're married, but you're taking advice from a single person.
Mm-hmm.
They have not gone through the experiences that you have.
Right.
Single meaning not married. There are people who've been in relationships many years long, but at any given point in time, they can just pick up and leave if they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
They can have other relationships if they decide to, and still consider not to be wrong about it, because they're just committed by the choice of being there. But it's not that the whole binding part of it, whether it be by paper or whether it be by your belief or your faith practice. It's one of those things wherein we would tell another person, if they lost somebody or they were hurt in a situation. Well, you can't speak on what I'm going through. You can't tell me how to feel because you haven't gone through it. It's the same with relationships, and that's where a lot of us mess up at. And or you feel bad for it, and you think there's something weird about it, or you don't think that is something wrong with it. And the problem is we're not bold enough about the things that we should be bold enough with, which is why a person can be okay with believing or not believing a certain way, but come and push you off of your firm, what's supposed to be your firm foundation. You got to learn to take that stance the way other people take that stance, and still have a respective space. And of course you are going to be tested and tried in that area. Lord help me. Yes, you're going to be tested and tried. But let me tell you how it works for you. Like I said, for me personally, I know God is for me. But I'm not going to just, because a person sees me a certain way, or they know of certain things about me, how I may respond to certain situations, that's fine, because they may respond differently. It might not be as emotionally, impactful as the way that you may respond, or it might not be the way that you necessarily do something, but you're you and they're who they are. Be okay with that in that situation, especially when it comes to your relationships. People can give so much advice and have so much to say for things that they're not doing or practicing themselves. So you got to be careful with that. That's another thing that makes relationships hard. How can you feel comfortable with going to another person, and not that you can't, but how are you going to go to another person and have discussions with them that you have not tried to have with your spouse.
Right. The only time I've seen that done um, is when the individual does not want to accept responsibilities for their actions. They're looking for somebody to validate the issue that they're having, right? Their behaviors, right? Especially if you don't take it to your spouse and you don't have that conversation and you're trying to get, again, validation from elsewhere. Hey, you all join me in my rally of my feelings and emotions because this is how I feel. So I just want somebody to join the party, right? And that's a failure in itself, right? Because now you become an open target for so many other elements that weren't present before you introduced that portion. You know what I mean? All right, so we're at 30 minutes now, so we got to wrap it up. And so I'll ask you a couple of questions, right? And just give me some straight shooter answers, okay?
That's my bad.
So when it comes to women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important for them or for a male to assure that they feel secure? In what ways can a man assure that or make a woman feel secure?
Ooh, that's a big important question, and that may, I believe, because of the changes that have come over the years, it looks very different than what it used to. I'm old school, but I know for me the security that we need as women, emotional security, the physical security falls in there. The security of knowing that you're all in, that you're committed to the situation just as much as we are. It's important because you don't want to feel like you're the one trying to do all the work or fixing if something needs to be fixed, or that you're not included in the decisions that does affect the both of
you. That's good.
Especially, and for women, it's not a comfortable thing, especially when it's third parties. It's not a comfortable thing where you feel more comfortable with expressing yourself to a woman, especially another woman that's not in the relationship. You're more comfortable around other people doing certain things that you wouldn't do with the person that you're in a committed relationship with. It sends a big signal to us that maybe his options are open to different things. Maybe he doesn't trust me the way I think he trusts me. Is there something wrong with me? I don't know what is wrong with women when we ask ourselves that. The first thing that we ask ourselves before we even question you all is, what's wrong with us? That's the problem. Right. If you let it be. It's a problem if you let it be. But most of us, if not all of us, have been there. Have asked ourselves that question.
That's good. All right. Second question, a tip. Just give the ladies a tip. If you were to give any kind of tip, what would you do or give them as far as relationship and marriages? Because some people are looking for, or women, you should never be looking for the man. Let the man find you. Hear me again. You should never be looking for the man. Let the man find you. If you're looking for the man, there's something wrong with that picture automatically. All right. So what tip would you give the ladies that are seeking a wholesome relationship, or they're awaiting? How can they prepare? That's the better question. How can they prepare for a relationship that leads to a wholesome marriage, etc.? How should they prepare?
One, never ever ever look into somebody else's relationship and like, I wish I had that, or I hope that I get a man like that, or this or that. One, you don't know what that woman is dealing with and going through behind closed doors, or male for that matter. You don't know what those people are going through, what they had to do to get there. Don't do that. Another tip I would love to give ladies is because I have single friends. It's nothing wrong with the waiting. Every time that you especially physically give of yourself, you're literally giving a piece of yourself. And if you give it away to too many people, what do you have left to give for that person who's supposed to be there?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the waiting. Trust me, the results are far better than it is than you trying to, play Russian roulette with your feelings and with your life, because you don't know what you may get along the way, giving in too soon, too quickly. Yeah. I can speak from a personal place. Not that he was the worst person in the world or anything like that, but we got to know each other backwards. We didn't start off, we were working with each other. We didn't start off automatically having an interest in each other. We were co-workers. And, at some point that changed. Other people saw something between us before we probably ever had a thought about each other like that. And it's the way that it happened. We both were at different points of our life. We were definitely two people who were within the church body. Like I said, because we're the church. We were young, still learning within the church body. We've seen so many different things with relationships from, whether it had been our parents, other relatives, or people that, we looked up to. So many different things that came from relationships, and being young and just starting out dating and different things like that, being in between relationships and really, hitting that learning curve of life. It just, for us, it happened backwards. We did not get to know each other, and it wasn't a one night stand, but we had a child first and then had to get to know one another. Yeah. And we definitely, because we were two people who were wanting to do the right thing. Yeah. Can we talk about that? We hear it in the can we talk about that? We will. But doing the right thing. And so for us, the right thing was to try to merge together a family. But I refused. Just because, you're in that situation doesn't mean that that's something you have to jump into. And people will tell you, oh, you don't want to have a child out of wedlock. It isn't something that you should seek to do by yourself, even though you can do it. There's plenty of things we can do on our own. It doesn't mean that you should. It doesn't mean that you should. And many women can tell you, even though they've done it, it's not something that they chose to do. So it's nothing wrong with taking the time to get to know the person. By the grace of God, it's just that we recognize that is, excuse me, we recognize the God in each other, even though we didn't understand it then separately, as individuals. But there was enough God in us that said, well, let's try to see what we could do to make this a family. But we took the time to actually get to know one another before we decided to be married. Did we have it all together? Of course not. Of course not. But I thank God for him, the growth that we are
getting it together. You understand? We're still living out the life that God desires for us to live out.
And you should stay getting it together. And we
forever
say that
learning.
Right.
Never think that you've arrived, right?
Because we change. We change every day.
Always evolving, right? But just remain connected to the source, because that's where revelation knowledge comes from. Stop trying to do your marriage on education. You have to have revelation in the marriage. Even when it comes to, when we say atheists, how come they may have a relationship? Well, it's a good relationship according to whose standards? The world standard, right? The cosmos. But you can have an even more fulfilling relationship connected to the source. The eternal perspective is what you want to keep in the forefront of your marriage, right?
And knowing that it's by choice, you the person have to decide how much you're going to be willing to give and take away from a situation that is going to benefit both parties, if that's what both parties want. For us, because I believe it took a lot of prayer, it took a lot of understanding because we are always changing. There are times where I just had to stand in the gap and pray for him, whether we were going to be together or not. He's still my brother in Christ first. And times where he's had to stand in and pray for me, maybe on different circumstance, situation, but we, like you said, we turn to the source, and I choose to believe that we have an absolutely wonderful marriage, especially with any ups, downs, misunderstandings, anything like that. A wonderful marriage. I can say that. Look y'all straight in y'all eyeballs with a straight face and say that. And I love you to life, not death, but I love you to life eternal.
Love you as well, sweetheart. Professing our love on camera, y'all.
Nothing wrong with that.
Something else.
It took us some getting here, but
absolutely
grateful.
Absolutely. We're still enjoying this journey. All right, until next time, listen, there's so much we can talk about, you all, but until next time, listen, just walk in the blessings, recognize the blessings, and acknowledge the author of the blessings. All right, we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.